Come on in, y'all. Sunday school lesson is starting. Come on in and tell a friend, tell a neighbor, tell a cop. We're reading out of Matthew chapter 12. Matthew chapter 12. Who can I run to? Who can I run to fill this empty life? Let's talk about this very controversial thing that Jesus did in Scripture and the coalition that he had with King David. Oh boy, here we go. Hello everybody, so the Jones Show. I'm he. It is Thursday, Theology Thursday. Today we're sitting around the mic and talk about the Bible. The Bible, man, that is the book for me. This is the day that the Lord has made. Every day that is. Let us rejoice. And let's be glad in it. The earth is the Lord. The fullness thereof. And y'all. Everybody that dwell therein. Let's talk about this topic here out of this great Sunday school book here called Power for Living. The topic is meet human need on the Sabbath. How to meet the human need on the Sabbath, the day y'all call holy. God called it that first, and y'all backed it up. Whether it's Saturday or Sunday, I ain't going to fight with y'all on that particular, although I think it's Saturday, and Constantine changed it to Sunday, but you ain't hear it from me. No, you didn't. The Bible truth is the parable of the unforgiving servant teaches us to forgive as we have been forgiven. That is it right there. Memory verse is coming out of Matthew 12, 1 through 14, but the memory verse is verse 7. But if ye had known what this means, I will have mercy and not sacrifice, you would not have condemned the guiltless. What's that all about? Well, I think you're going to have to figure what that is all about by reading 1 Samuel 21 to see what happened to David. My lesson, what is it? Your lesson says justice and Sabbath laws. Okay. All right. I'm hoping we're teaching the same lesson. Abronia Scott. Avronia. Okay, I want to start this off by reading 1 Samuel 21, and I don't know where Elder Jones is yet. I didn't get no message said that he was in Vegas and nothing like that, so I hope he pop in for Abronia's sake. It says here, 1 Samuel 21, then came David to Nob to Ahimelech, the priest. And Ahimelech was afraid at the meeting of David and said unto him, why art thou alone and no man is with thee? And David said unto Ahimelech the priest, the king hath commanded me a business and hath said unto me, let no man know anything of the business whereabout I send thee and what I have commanded thee. I have appointed my servants to such and such a place. Mind your business. Pretty much what he's saying here. Now, therefore, what is under thine hand? Hey, what you hiding? Give me 5 loaves of bread in mine hand, or what there is present. And the priest answered David and said, there is no common bread under mine hand, but there is hallowed bread, if the young men have kept themselves at least from women. And David answered the priest and said unto him, of a truth, women have been kept from us about these 3 days since I came out, and the vessels of the young men are holy, and the bread is in a manner common, yea, though it were sanctified this day in the vessel. Verse 6 says, so the priest gave him hallowed bread, for there was no bread there but the shewbread, and that was taken from before the Lord to put hot bread in the day when it was taken away. Jesus referred back to this story as he was trying to teach a lesson to the Pharisees. My footnotes here in 1 Samuel pretty much says David is now 20 years old, and his exile lasts about 10 years until he's crowned king over Judah in Hebron at the age of 30. Nob, N-O-B, is halfway between Jerusalem and Gibeah. And though the ark was still in Kirjath Jearim, the tabernacle was standing at Nob and was the site of the national worship. The Ahimelech, referred to in chapter 14 and 3 as Ahijah, is the great-grandson of Eli. It's a family affair. When the shewbread was replaced, it could be eaten, but usually only by the priests. And this is why this was an issue. And the bread was 12 loaves made of pure wheat flour, which was set in the sanctuary before Yahweh, fresh, each Sabbath day. And Jesus referred to this event in teaching that he was Lord of the Sabbath, and the human need must be considered before ritual. And so that opens up this lesson today. Matthew chapter 12. Says here, at that time, Jesus went on the Sabbath day through the corn, and his disciples were hungry and began to pluck the ears of corn to eat it. Y'all remember when, who was that? The apostle? Paul, I think it was, talked about, do not muzzle the ox which treaded out the corn. Those of you who have pastors and leaders and evangelists and apostles and teachers and all what have you, they need to eat. And when you muzzle the ox, stop it from eating, even though it's treading the corn, you're doing a disjustice to the ox, because how is it going to get tread without the ox? You're going to do it yourself? Let him eat. Yeah. But when the Pharisees saw it, they said unto him, behold, thy disciples do that which is not lawful to do upon the Sabbath day. But he said unto them, have ye not read? This is in red. This is Jesus getting ready to issue his teaching and his wonderful rebuke. If you notice the patterns with Jesus Christ, it is a unique pattern because he always refers back to Scripture, to the Torah, to the document, to the Holy Writ. Even when he was talking to Satan, when he was having this thing with Satan up on the hill, Satan took him up there to show him all of the... He said, both of them were saying, have you not read? Have you not heard? Did you not read this before? Well, Jesus is getting ready to do this again, and this should be the point, the power that you have when you're trying to make a point to believers and unbelievers, to preach the Word of God, because the Word of God has power. He says, have ye not read what David did? And trust me, they knew exactly, because they've read it. When he was 100, and hungered, that's at 100. He was hungry. And they that were with him, all right? How he entered into the house of God and did eat the shewbread, which was not lawful for him to eat, neither for them which were with him, but only for the priests. Remember I said that. Or have ye not read in the law? Wonder why. I'm going to have to press Elder Jones on this. He keep talking about the law. And do Jesus talk to us this way, about this law? Why is he talking to the Pharisees about a law? Have you not read in the law how that on the Sabbath days, the priest in the temple profaned the Sabbath and are blameless? This was not a statement. This was a question. So I'll read it again. Have you not read in the law how that on the Sabbath days, the priests in the temple profaned the Sabbath and are blameless? But I say unto you that in this place is one greater than the temple. Ooh, what a slap in the face. He says, but if ye had known what this mean, I will have mercy and not sacrifice, ye would have not condemned the guiltless. For the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath day. This verse 8 is the power of this lesson. For the Son of Man is the Lord even on the Sabbath day. I remember when Jesus was talking to them, and he says, you searching the scriptures looking for eternal life, but you found me. He says, I'm the God of, I'm the Lord of the Sabbath and manna. I'm the way, truth, life, the gate, and all these things that you observed in the temple and in the tabernacle, and all these things that my God told you to set up. He was setting you up for me. Now here I am, and you don't even realize the greater is here. And then that's when he read out of Isaiah chapter 61, the Spirit of the Lord is within me, and he had given me, to preach the gospel to the poor and all these things. And gosh, he pretty much was setting them up. That's why they kept getting upset with him and wanted to kill him, because how dare you present this blasphemy? So verse 9 says, and when ye was departed thence, he went into their synagogue. When he was departed, he went to their synagogue, and behold, there was a man which had his hands withered, and they asked him, saying, is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath days? That they might accuse him. They asked him this so they can accuse him. And he said unto them, man, what man shall there be among you that shall have one sheep, and if it fall into a pit on the Sabbath day, will ye not lay hold on to it and lift it out? How much then is a man better than a sheep? Wherefore it is lawful to do well on the Sabbath days. And then said he to the man, stretch forth thy hand. And he did, and it was restored whole like as the other. Last verse says here, this is a pericope. It kind of kicks up something, a new topic, but nevertheless. Then the Pharisees went out and held the counsel against him, how they might destroy him. I'm so glad that the Sunday school lesson added that in there. Because that's what's going on today among the brethren. Trust me on that. We go against status quo. That's what's going on in politics as well with the Donald Trump administration. All right. Rodney says, Deanne, blessing to you. Coming through briefly. Yeah, I know I had you all tied up today, Deanne. Brother says, because the Pharisee claimed they lived by the law, but always had problems with Jesus doing things on the Sabbath day. That she's asking my question about why is it, L. Jones, that Jesus, every time, not just Jesus, but I think the apostles did the same thing. Whenever they were talking to Pharisees, they kept bringing up the law. But they didn't bring up the law with Gentiles that much.
No. They were interpreters of the law.
Oh, interpreters of the law.
Yeah, so they're supposed to know the law front and back. So anything dealing with the law, they're supposed to know. And that's why Jesus went straight forward. Now, if you notice in this lesson, Jesus used wisdom on them. He took them to the priests, to the prophets, and the law.
Yeah, he did.
Because the Old Testament, they would always read the prophets and they would always read the law. The first lesson that he talked about was in the prophets. The second lesson that he talked about was in the law. And so when he says to them, have you not read? That was slapping their face, because right off the bat, he knew that they knew. And when he said that, he kind of shut them down. Because if you notice, they didn't go into a debate session right there.
Right.
Now, you can read in other areas where they kept debating with Jesus. They were literally going back and forth with him. But when he brought up the law and something that they supposed to know, and then he brought up somebody who they almost worship, which is David.
Right.
And notice Jesus is the seed of David. So what he's saying is, if you can find your master great or blameless, then you can find me blameless too. Because what he did, in so many words, was worse than what these particular disciples did.
Talking about David.
David, Although their if you don't read too good, you would think that David broke the law by eating the bread.
Right.
But something took place prior to David eating that bread. There was a qualification that they had to meet, and there was another qualification that had to take place before he could eat that bread. Otherwise, everybody would have been dead.
Well, the qualification apparently must be on David.
Part of it is on David. And the other part is on the priest himself.
Priest himself.
Both of them had to be in order.
Yes, sir.
Now, Jesus, he proves to them that he used two examples. Example one would be the prophets. And when he talked about the prophets and he dealt with the showbread, it was a sign to let us know that there, basically, in all of this, there is no law that's greater than human need.
Right.
And the law was made for the humans, not to restrain or to restrict or to hurt the humans. Of course, we do know that the law was made for the lawless.
Right.
All right. But God never instituted a law that would strict and bind his people, but he made a law that would separate them from the world.
Right.
Too bad we don't have those laws this day. It's every man for himself.
Sure.
It's just right out. Just do whatever you feel like doing.
It's your thing.
Right. And just tell people, don't judge me.
Don't judge me.
So that's interesting. So that's why Jesus would go right into the law and into the prophets, because I believe he dealt with people based on who they were. When that woman wanted that food and she mentioned getting the table, he mentioned to her about giving to the dogs, you know, that which belongs to the children. So he dealt with her according to her.
Yeah.
When he met the woman at the well, he dealt with her husbands.
Yeah.
Many of them.
Yeah.
So he believes in, number one, seeing a need, meeting a need, and number two, he believes in dealing with a person based on the person.
Right.
And I think that's a good principle that we need to practice. You can't deal with everybody generally. You can't bless everybody generally, and you can't give everybody a general blessing or general statement. You got to give them something that's for them from God. And so Jesus is a perfect example. He didn't deal with the rest of the people with the law, but he dealt with everybody else with the parables.
That's good, actually. The analogy you just made. You can't take a law and punish everybody the same way.
Correct.
Because it really has to do with the intent of the heart. You believe murder is a sin, right?
Yes.
Okay. But the law is set up where they put degrees of murder because of intent. They have murder 1, second-degree murder. They got what's called homicide. They got what's called involuntary homicide.
Justified homicide.
Justified homicide. Okay. So if I right now dig in my pocket and shoot you, that's murder 1 most likely, unless I got a good noise.
He's premeditated.
Premeditated. Okay. That's premeditated murder.
That's premeditated.
You're gonna get a harsher punishment.
Yes.
But if you reach in your pocket and I think you're getting ready to attack me and I pull out my gun and shoot you, I still murdered you. Right. But it might be involuntary.
Involuntary. And the Bible had some stuff for all that.
Yes.
Yeah. God has a law for everything.
Yes.
But we got to be careful of how we interpret the law.
How we interpret it.
And that's where these Pharisees fell out with Jesus, because it is said that the Pharisees created 39 extra categories just for the Sabbath. Yeah. 39 categories of laws. And in those 39 categories, there were possibly hundreds of laws. Right. Not just 39 laws, but 39 categories. Right. And from those categories, then they divided that. All because I believe what happens is history says that because Israel kept abandoning God by disobeying God, by disobeying his laws, and by not conforming to his precepts, his commands, his laws, his judgments, then God caused them to go into slavery a few times. And so it is said that because of that, these Pharisees and them decided that what we need to do is we need to come up with something that we will, from this point on, worship God by the keeping of this ceremonial law.
Right.
And so they says, let's create these 39 categories and make sure, because they thought that if they can get back with God just by keeping the Sabbath law, that God would bring them out of Rome. And that's why they was really strict on it, but yet they were hypocrites. That's what Jesus. So for the people who think that Jesus broke a law, he never broke one law.
No.
Not one law has he ever broke. Not one bad, ill thought has he ever thought. The Bible talked about there's no guile in his mouth or something like that. And in other words, but there are people who accuse him, including this day, that says that Jesus broke a law.
Yep.
If you see him do something that doesn't look right, our understanding is wrong. His is right.
That's true. His is right. Okay. Well, El John, because I want you to go to listen, because we always try to find a practical how we can implement this, make sense of what we do today.
Right.
Okay, because we have laws.
Yes.
But not so much the law of man's law, the law of the land, but we still have the law of God still exists. Not, I'm talking about the 613 Mosaic laws, things like that.
Right.
But we still have decency laws.
Yes.
That Jesus died on the cross and didn't get rid of. The moral laws.
The moral laws.
They're still there.
The laws of generosity.
Generosity, absolutely.
The
Okay.
humane laws.
Yep, absolutely. And many of these laws are in place, and God put them in place, and then he left it there, and it works just like, almost like magic, for the sake of not being able to find a better word.
Yeah, you need a better word.
I need a better word for that. Because sinners could sow, and they will reap.
They will reap. Those are principles.
Because that is the law of God.
That's right.
The law of the land, okay? Well, sinners or people who are saved can sin against their body, and something can happen to their body. Right. AIDS,
right.
and
it's
HIV.
Not God doing it.
It ain't God doing it.
It's just a law that was set forth.
You sinned against, or you went against a law of, like a law of gravity.
Correct.
So yes.
And it is not karma.
No, not karma.
No, it's not karma.
No, not whatsoever. We come up with